And then that brings us to CPC 8816.
Wait a second.
I don't know that I don't know that the file is up on SharePoint.
I don't think so.
We just it's a case that we've discussed previously. The complainant was Robert Tyler, Major Tyler's husband, where he believed that he was run in NCIC without a lawful purpose. Internal Affairs, we sent it over to Internal Affairs because of the criminal activity possibility.
Meaning the NCIC thing would be illegal.
Correct.
Gotcha.
They concluded their review and they exonerated the sergeant in this case, stating that there was a lawful purpose for.
And what would that be?
The stated purpose was that Mr. Tyler was acting suspiciously.
Well, there's a catch-all for you, isn't it?
And so the question that I have is, how would this board like to approach this, which is an ongoing problem with the access of NCIC? If you want to do something individually for the officer, then I will need to draft a memo today to try to intervene because we were given a 7-day turnaround.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
The NCIC search was done. Do we know? We have confirmation on that?
Yes, we knew that. We knew that from the. That's why we sent it over to Internal Affairs, because we knew that the NCIC was accessed.
Right. Which is not the first time we've seen that.
Right. So the question is, do we want to approach this on an individual basis to intervene in this case, or does the board want to take this on from the broader standpoint of how this department treats NCIC and its use?
Absolutely, yeah. I agree.
I mean, okay, they exonerated a person based on the fact that he was acting. I would give him an F if I was trying to figure out what suspicious meant. That doesn't tell me anything. And
we have enough now to see a pattern.
Yeah.
You know, we have enough now to see a pattern. We saw it with Rachel, what's her name? Regina Sanchez. And with, the other case, there was another case.
Hindi.
Yeah, with Hindi. Right. And so we have 3 cases we can use as examples. Now the route may not be, I don't really see the value of going to APD. We've gone to APD with the other 2 cases and gotten nowhere. So what if we took a different path? What if we took a path that had to do with DOJ and the monitor and the judge and go that way? Because this is clearly a pattern of them misusing NCIC database, which is illegal. So, and no consequences. That's not okay.
Well, so, Ed, would you want the full board's opinion?
I think the full board probably needs to decide. Okay. On an individual basis, this case is, I think it highlights the internal affairs investigators' bias, and so the file is essentially what is used to justify in internal affairs minds to activate NCIC is that Mr. Tyler sat near them, heard their conversation, may have taken a picture of them with his cell phone, and because of threats to Albuquerque Police Department personnel and the dangerous environment in which they operate, which included in the file, in the investigative file, threat alerts that dated back to 2015, I mean, it's
meaning in general, people are...
Just in general, yes.
There have been...
Yes, and suspects... suspects...
What does the federal law say on this?
That you have to have a lawful purpose for accessing.
And how do they define that?
Acting suspiciously.
Well, it has to be within the course of your it has to be in the course of your duties as a law enforcement officer. So if there was, in my mind, as I interpret it, if there was this suspicion of a criminal activity, then this sergeant had the duty to do at least.
And what's the suspicion of the illegal activity, that he sat near enough to them to hear them?
Well,
and
that's the question.
Might have taken a picture?
That's the question. None of that, in my mind, violates the law.
Yeah, really, no kidding. There's no boundary then. There's none.
No, if
There's no threshold by which you have to pass in order to make this cool. It's not okay.
That's right.
I think we take it as a case. My suggestion is we recommend to the board that we take this as a systemic problem.
I agree with that.
And that there needs to be some policy clarifications about when it's appropriate and when it's not to use the NCIC database.
Well, I don't know that I don't know that APD is capable of doing that at this point. I think
Who is? Department of Justice?
I think that the state, New Mexico, has to get involved, and there needs to be a proposal of possibly an audit of their use of the system. And who's that? Regina? Who's that? Chacon. Regina Chacon needs to be brought in.
Who's that?
She's the state NCIC coordinator. Each state has an NCIC coordinator. They are responsible for conducting investigations into alleged violations of NCIC. In the case that's before you today, the 88-16, nobody ever contacted NCIC. The NCIC coordinator to conduct an investigation as to whether or not there was a violation.
Wait,
They're the ones who make the decision.
Excuse me. So on each of these three cases we're talking about, was NCIC coordinator, whatever her name is, contacted about any of these cases?
And the first two where there were findings in the first two that NCIC policy was violated. So
for which there was no discipline.
So Regina Sanchez's case, they conducted an investigation. The Hindi case, they conducted an investigation, and the determinations were that those officers violated the NCIC access policy. This one was not referred to the state of New Mexico for an investigation.
Okay, so would it be your recommendation, your staff recommendation, that we not only individually report this? Can we be the ones that do that? Can we be the ones that say there should be a review of the use of this?
And if we're not, then I feel like that's exactly where we need to construct something that somehow passes, that we do have that oversight authority. I think, you know what I'm saying?
Well, we have to say there's a pattern here.
Well, there's a pattern, and there's what we believe is a duty to actually to report an allegation, and there's also
so they're violating the rules just by not reporting it to this coordinator? Gotcha.
Right. And there's also the fact that in paragraph 180 of the settlement agreement, once there's an allegation of criminal activity, the chief has a duty to refer this to the investigative authority to determine whether or not criminal activity took place.
And they did not do that.
And they did not do that.
Okay, so there's a pile of little things here that we can put together, and the overarching piece is, do we have routine violations of the NCIC database rules? And that's the question. I, for one, recommend that this committee suggest to the board that we proceed exactly as you've suggested and follow up on this. We've been fed up with this for a while. So let's go. Let's do it. Any reason we shouldn't do it?
Is
No,
that
no,
a
no.
mo-
That's a motion.
That's a motion.
Okay, I second it.
Yeah, this is, good job. No, I think we're headed in the right direction with that. There's a systemic problem.
So
there
it's,
we need-
so to be clear, it's saying that we find that the chief should have had somebody report this to the coordinator, and that beyond that, the second piece is that there's 3 cases that we can identify, and we think there should be an investigation of the patterns of usage of NCIC compared to other cities of like size, blah, 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 whatever study that would be.
I think the aspect that the department doesn't recognize that this is a violation, that the department in itself doesn't see a problem with
As evidenced by their internal affairs.
as evidenced by this investigation, that you simply are around a police officer. And I think that we have a very credible complainant in this case, who in his statement says that he did not take any pictures.
Even if he did, so what?
I understand, but I'm saying that even that simply the fact that because they didn't like the way that he looked at them and
I'm a cop and you're not.
paid attention to what they had to say, and he paid attention because he was a sheriff for 25 years, so he understood exactly what they were talking about, and he heard him over talking about training, where he knew where his wife is the commander of the training division, and so yes, of course he would be interested in that conversation that they're having at this public place, in a loud enough manner where
you don't have to sell me. I'm already there.
Where they can be overheard. And simply the fact that you're hearing a conversation doesn't subject you to having your identity traced in
Because whether he's a
NCIC.
sheriff or not, I could be sitting there listening to
Right,
it.
right. There's
Doesn't
some sort
matter.
of sacred bubble around there. Cops talking, don't listen.
Yeah,
Okay.
you've offended me by listening. Okay, to me talking in a public place.
So, so we'll recommend that in our meeting on.
So you'll make a
Thursday.
presentation in your report about this, and we'll say that we recommend the following action. And
Okay.
I will.